Odin and Santa Claus. At first, these two characters look very, very different. I mean, one is a fat fuck that comes through your chimney to give you gifts, and the other is the Germanic and Nordic god of wisdom and war. So very, very different. But if you care to join me on this video, we will go into the details. And if you go into the details, we will find out together today that they are in fact very, very similar. And there's a very high probability that jolly old Saint Nick is just the wise wanderer in disguise. Now, what I want you to do first is all those preconceptions and all those doubts you have in your mind, I want you to take them, I want you to put them somewhere and just park them over there. Let's start with a blank slate. If I say Santa Claus, what's the one thing that defines Santa Claus? I think it's the fact that he comes to your house at Christmas Eve and gives you gifts. That's what makes Santa, Santa, right? So you start to make comparison. Does Wodan also come to your house at Christmas Eve? Well, that's a bit odd question because Christmas is a Christian festival. And in the olden days, there were no Christians, so they didn't celebrate Christian festivals. But the Christian festival, Christmas, is just kind of loosely based on Yule, the festival and the celebration of the darkest day of the year. So the right question to ask would be, did Odin visit people during Yule? And legend has it that he actually does. And why he actually does it is actually quite profound. I'll get to that towards the end of the video, but I don't want to get sidetracked too much. But legend has it he travels Midgard in disguise because he wants to see how the people are doing and if they are happy and if they are merry during those darkest days of the year. So yeah, Santa Claus comes to your house and Odin comes to your house. I know what you're thinking. Yeah, but like Santa Claus gives gifts, right? Odin, surely Odin doesn't give gifts. Or does he? Odin, or Wodan, is the god with many, many names. So I looked it up, and he actually has 3 names, which allure to the fact that he's very generous. One of his names is the gift giver. One of his names translates to the wish granter, and the other one is the wealth friend. So he indeed is very generous. I did some more research, and actually when you go into the Eddas, there's actually a poem where Freya describes the generosity of the one-eyed god. I had to write it down for you. He gives gold to those that are worthy. He gave Hemrod helmet and armor. He gave Sigmund a sword as a gift. He gives victory to some and money to others. Sounds like a pretty generous guy, don't you think? So, Odin did visit during the darkest days of the year, and he did bring gifts to humanity. Now you might say, well, Santa is fat. And that's not entirely true, because Santa became fat when he was reimagined by Coca-Cola in the 1930s. You could indeed say that Christmas was once Yule, a pagan festival, and became then a Christian festival, but it's been taken from the Christians and it's been being co-opted by the capitalists. Not that I have anything against capitalists, but it's more of a commercial festival than it is a religious one now, at least in Northern Europe. So we've established that he does indeed visit during the darkest day, and that he does indeed grant wishes and give gifts. So what more is there to Santa? Well, there's actually some funny evidence, because when this story of Saint Nicholas, of Santa Claus, when did it start? Well, we can look back in history when we started seeing depictions of the original Santa Claus, not the Coca-Cola one, not the fat one, but the original one. And they came in Germany just around the time that Christianity really started to take hold. So just around the time when it was forbidden to worship Odin, suddenly here is Santa Claus. So it's a bit all too familiar. That line of thought, you can go even further with it, because in the olden days they believed that Odin was indeed all wise and all knowing. So indeed, Wodan would have known whether you would have been naughty or nice in the past year. And the gifts that he brings, a lot of the gifts that are in Nordic mythology are made by dwarfs, and a lot of gifts for Santa were made by elves. So they both kind of have like magical helpers that prepare magical gifts for the people. So as you can see now, there are a lot of similarities between Odin and Santa Claus. Am I personally convinced? I consider it highly probable that Santa Claus is at least the one-eyed god. Now, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, because this was this week's video. The release date of this video is indeed the first day of Christmas, so I hope you have a good one. I hope you will take the time to appreciate these dark days, because these dark days, they have their own magic and they have their own lessons if we listen. It's easy just to enjoy the summer and the hot times and just the adventure. But these times of darkness are also really nice. Oh, wait a minute. Thanks for reminding me, because I still need to tell you why Odin visits at the darkest day of the year. Well, he's the god of wisdom after all. If you really want to know somebody, what you got to do? You got to see how they are at their most darkest. The most darkest of days, literally and figuratively. So that's why Odin visits people when the days are shortest, and the cold is the nastiest, and the wood is almost running out. Because that's when people tell you who they really are. So, if you want to know somebody, wait until the shit hits the fan. That's when you really get to know people. That's the lesson behind that. I'll see you all next week. Have a great Christmas.